Hello, Jeremiah Yah here at SPACETIMECREATOR, lines of communication system. Today we're going into just a piece of paper, how we can come in anything of creation and settings. It's important that we understand the fabrics of space, all through structure, all through design. How we come to all lines of communication system, all through travel. All through travel, right? So you start with a piece of paper, right? But what you have to understand in that position location system, what happens with that piece of paper, okay, if it's not in balance with its own system? What are you creating? Cluster, clutter, density, combustion. You can't travel through this. Setting lines of communication system all through travel. Now, how direct lines of link is knowing exactly what you're doing is to unravel, okay, these settings so you can recreate and set the basement setting to its vision. Just a piece of paper, right? There's no clutter, no too many lines, just a piece of paper itself. But if I take this and put it here on top, I do the same thing all over again. It's getting heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier. And every time I put those dimensional layers, it's getting heavier and heavier, right? But to unravel it is to come into the too many lines of density and set position of clutter. Bye bye clutter, right? Clutter no more. It dissolves all through just a piece of paper. Knowing how to control your thoughts, your actions, and emotions all through travel. All through travel. Okay? So it's incredible when you really, really understand what you're doing through travel. All through light, all through track locations. See? Everything is in the mind, guys. See? See the structure, see the design. So if I change the image, I'm changing everything. It's that position. But everything is structure, everything is design for you to understand its vision. And what you're doing in settings. And what you're doing in system locations. Okay, look at that. Look how powerful that is. Isn't that amazing when you start understanding what you're doing? So every time you're folding something, you're creating a window of design. Look at that. Oh, it's opening up, it's opening up. There it is, there it is, there it is, there it is, inside the piece of paper of dimensional layers. Everything's an image, everything's a vortex, everything's a travel. Okay? Seeing the eye line, a direct line of view, in all lines of all communication system, all through travel. Okay? I don't need to draw schematics, I don't need to do this. I do it through all lines. I don't need a CGI screen. I don't need anything in graphing screens. I don't need anything through computer because it's all levels of its image and its own system lines of travel. In set position. Okay, in set position. So, it's just pinpointing these graphs. This is the entry points that we all understand how to come into arrivals and departures all through a window frame. Window frame. Oh, you see that rainbow? See the rainbow there? Came in. All right? So really get used to doing this in set position locations, all situations. All right? Changing the light changes everything through track locations. Okay? Get it into the levels. It's all levels of creation. All right. 4 lines of signals, 2 lines of graph, 1 center in position, 1 operation system of spectrum. You bring it in, you see the structure, you see the design. You see the design. See the portal? Let's bring it in closer. You see it, Chips? You see it? So, when you change the intent, it changes the structure of its drawing. By If you come into dimensional layers, it changes everything in fractals over screen over pi. Setting lines of communication system this way, and this way. Right? So it doesn't matter how many times you fold it, as long as you understand you have exactly what you want to bring in through your visions and set track location system, all through setting. Okay, when you open it up, there's no clutter inside. Okay, you're just coming into dimensional layers of settings and set position. You got all lines of visions and 4 lines of attractions. Okay. All lines of visions of lights, all lines of communication system and travel, and direction. All through sequence, all through communications. Okay. Okay, bring that in. And there's the road and set position. All right, here guys, the intent. The more you come in your imagination, the more you get out of clutter, the more you get out of density, the more you come out of too many minds, you come in all communications of windows and settings and attractions and anything in traffic communications. Now these are dimensional layers. This is probably called space. But when you look inside, you start to recognize what you're doing in line communication settings, right? Those are the layers of space. So revealing that is revealing these geometric lines of shapes and all of the different layers of space. Setting space here, setting space here. But everything structured is everything design. Okay, set position. If you're getting into all lines of communication setting, I set up a structure line. All right, all through setting. Okay, so if you go this way, remember, it's all what you do. Start with this. Look at that. And look at this. Use your imagination and you start to understand how to understand the fabrics of space. All through geometric, all through shape. All right. Back force correlations, setting lines of attraction, and setting. Oh, look at that. Pillars. Look at that. Stone hedges. Look at that. Everything I change information lines of grounds. That changes everything information system all through travel. One line signature. Circulation, rotation lines, of course, centers, lines of travel, and direct signals modifications. If I change it at a different angle, you can change the shift and anomalies and set position location system and open it up through track locations. Is formation settings, all through track locations. All right, guys, so I'm just showing you what you can do through a piece of paper. Basically, you have to have conscious and awareness every single time you communicate with it on different lines of shapes, different lines of travel, different lines of communications, different lines of files, different levels of layers, different levels of fabrics of space. There's the fabrics of space right here. Okay, 1, 2, all the way up. You open up your sequence. There's all the layers. So what we have to understand is how to get in our position, location, or settings, and truly understand to get out of clutter is to stay in the mind. All levels of information lines of grounds. That releases all communication setting. Let's get a point lines of communications, split lines. 1/6, 1/4. 1/3, 2/3. Set position locations. 1/2. Back force setting. Triangulation reset. Overcross location screen, adaptation of service interaction. All through setting through files. See the files? Okay, all through walking surface and line direct signals and grounds. All right, I don't need to use my digital pad. I can just use a piece of paper and turn it into a computer. But you see light and you see dark. Now, if I do this in settings, I'm resetting in travels. It stargates and set position location to the system through its pyramid interaction. There's the pyramid in different levels of setting. Setting communication lines of grounds, overcross locations and flip lines of 2 lines of rotation and ground lines of service. Core centers, lines of travel. Directing signals, ground lines of surface. Okay. All right. Setting communications, open to channel, open to sequence, open setting spectrum. Setting communication, high centers of travel. Yeah. Yeah. This is reconnecting cycles. All right. So you can see the spectrum, you can see the light, you see the flux capacitor, right? But you also see the face. See the face? There's the face there. Who is that? Who's that face? It's an Egyptian god. You see it? Egyptian god. See the face? There's the bone structure. There's the eyes. There's the nose. There it is. And there's XT thousands above. There's the pyramid above in sequence. There's the Cylon right there in travel. Now, if I go to the opposite direct signals, we're back in the files of communication. Files of communication. All right. Oh, look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 motherships. Look at that. So everything I'm changing structure and design through intent of the story and 4 lines of a communication setting all through travel. Okay? Get you how to understand how to use this in all formation lines of grounds. Let's see. In position locations, I am, yes. Yeah, I got to get you out of sequence lines, okay, until you get an activation line, ground line. So your observation outside, not looking inside in, okay, so it doesn't affect your system of travel. It's important you guys have to be activated to come on my live, okay, especially when you're a space-time creator, because the energy is so high, okay, you won't understand it through frequencies, supposition, all through junctions, all through directions, all through files. Okay, 3 lines of signals, so communication lines of 2 graphs, changing communication signals, service and track communications. Solar generation lines, directing lines, and position location system. What do you see that lines of core centers? What is that lines of communication system? Towers of communication. Towers of communication. See it? There's the tower. Changing direct signals, change ground lines of service. What do we set position location settings and travel? A Rubik's Cube. Hooah. A Rubik's Cube. You see the bottom and you see the top. So it's what you do through your mind, not through clutter. And the more you understand that, the more you understand what you're doing in all communication is you're just creating different lines of windows in seconds, minutes, and hours in communication system through your 24 communication of consciousness being aware of everything you come in position opens up the sequence of spectrum communication through setting all through travel. All through travel. Look at that. All through travel. Okay. It's pretty incredible. See the energetic dome? See the water above the sequence? See the pyramids below in the settings and travel? See the correlation lines of communication system? See the track lines of high interference? See the solar sail? See it's moving by itself? To understand the position of fabrics of space, guys, is changing the papers of space and time to its windows and frames. It's like changing each paper, each timelines. Coming into the files, coming into the balance, coming into center, line signals, into half lines of sequence, into full structure design. See, different schematics, different drawing. It's not magic, it's just changing correlation settings of time. But it's in sequence of all timelines at once. There's the box. Okay? Here's the pixelation graphs. Okay? Setting communication lines of high centers, all communication system, all through travel. And direct signals. You can see it coming in, 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 you can see it coming in. It's a changing in settings, changing tracks, changing divisions of its shapes and all these line communications. All through structure, all through design. Okay, the fundamentals of you is the unifications of your networks, is knowing how to use that through your imaginations that you have in track locations. So You can set position, you can change the frames, or you can stay same structure of design. Set position. Now, if you want to really come in, it changes the energy, it changes the lights, it changes the position, it changes the tractions, it changes locations, it changes the system. Every single time you change it in 4 lines of sequence, you see different levels of structures. Okay? It's incredible when you really start connecting through light and how you connect through dark. All through indications, all through travel. Okay? There has to be light and dark in everything because it's inside you. It's knowing how to have it in your representation system, all through track locations. Okay? Open through sequence. What do you see in setting? 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 Understand? So you don't just look at the paper, you look at all angles of the paper. You look inside the paper. You look around the paper on 4 lines of signal, 6 lines of angles, or line position of 12, or 24 line position, blocking lines of 72, or 144, or line position location of 3 lines of 5,000 lines of measure. And set position lines of travel, all through direct location system, all through track location of files of indications. That's a lot of files and track locations. And set calculations. All right, all files have communication. So when you open it up, you know what you're doing through your visions and cortex. You know what you're doing in your visions or cortex. Oh, look at that. Look at that. There you go. There you go, Unison. There's your crow. You see it? There's the crow. There's the beak. Right above in signal. Gone. Disappeared. Different structure, different structure, different structure. Different image, different image, different image. But that's settings. You guys have to get out of this and come into this. Layers. Layers, 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 layers. Not through cluster, not through combustion. And the more you get into that, the more it gets easier to understand how to use an information system of your towers of communication. Right? Towers of communication. Okay. Changing lights, changing tractions, changing visual locations. All through traction locations. All right. So it's amazing when you just tweak this and tweak that. You know, you can really start to see the towers. Right, there it is. Asgard. So, your imagination is everything, but how to use it, again, is not through clutter. So I want you guys to truly understand what you can do through dimensional layers of paper. Okay, one on top of each other, or one bottom of each other, or crossing signals, or over cross location system, or anything attractions. But you see it on all different communications of layers, from this to this to this to this to this to this. So you're expanding out. You're expanding out. You're expanding out. Different levels, different travel, different directions. See? You're expanding out. See? Expanding out. See? See? I don't need to create geometry shapes. It's coming from its paper itself. It's like, you know how to make a paper airplane, but you can also create the paper airplane and create a story around it. You see the runway in that position locations. Let's set up a road graph screen. Split lines of 1/6 into settings of 1/4 into 2 lines of 2/3 and set positions of back force and setting positions back in 2/3 in traction. Setting lines of sequence. Panel communication lines, layers of division. Setting core lines of high position of 1/8 in travel. Square root, square line screen adaptation of flux over setting into lines of indications. All through tractions. You see it? See the runway? So guys, it's simple. It really is. Understanding the dimensional layers of you. Understanding the dimensional layers of you in vision and cortex. And know exactly how to get into your own creativities of your own design all through a piece of paper through its windows of traction. All through setting, all through communications, all through light, all through dark. Okay? See? XC1000 above, there's the water. All right, guys? Yeah, that's what it is, Unison. I'm trying to get you guys to understand these things so you stop getting into the clutter. Because what you do, if you're putting layers and layers on top of a piece of paper and you have no idea what you're doing, everything's going to fall out. What did it just do? Fall out. So, did I know the paper was going to fall out, or did I already know it was going to happen? It fell out even before I picked up the paper. It's its own mind, of its own system, of its own correlation, of its own translocation, of its own constant. It knows exactly what it's doing before it gets there. So it doesn't matter how many times it's set sequence, it falls out of traction. It does it ahead of schedule, guys. But it doesn't do it for all communication cluster. But what you have to identify is have a collaboration, a partnership with the structure of design so you know exactly what you're doing and set physical case for your system all through calculations. All through your own designs. Your own designs. Your own designs. Your Skynet, your SkyGrid. Look at that. All through that. Just by folding the piece of paper in 1/6 of pi. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the angel. Look at the angel. Booyah. See? You got to understand what a piece of paper is. It can do anything it wants through travel. It has its own modification system. It has its own travel and its own case setting. It has its own constant, it has its own awareness, has its own intelligence, has its own operation system. So if I'm not traveling, it's traveling on its own and showing you exactly what it's doing through its own system settings. So it's showing me exactly where I need to fold the paper. I don't fold it this way, I have to fold it this way. Don't fold it that way, fold it this way. Don't go this way, go that way. Do it this way, do it that way, and that's that position. So when you unfold it, you see where the conscious shows you exactly what it drew through its image and set position. It shows you exactly what it drew in set position. All through light, all through dark. Okay? Look at that. See? Start understanding this, guys, because I'm telling you right now, if you don't understand dimensional layers of view, of fabric of space, everything's going to fall. And everything comes into clutter. So again, here and here, you got two pieces of paper over a sequence, which basically overrides the setting in all lines of travel because you're not using your thoughts, you're not using your actions, you're certainly not using your emotions of what you're supposed to do through vision. So that's two-dimensional layers of space, and this is the clutter that you're creating. So every time you overwrap it, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's getting bigger and bigger in your minds. That's a lot of clutter, guys. It's that position. Okay? Right? Everything is travel. Now, it's not clutter to me because I see it as release. Okay? You see it as clutter that basically doesn't have anything of travel. You can't travel through this, even though you see structure of design. Look at that, structure of design. Okay? Look, structure of design, guys. Structure of design. Okay? Everything I do is structure of design. So what you're doing is you're folding up pieces of paper of you in your inventories, in your traffic, and set location, your highways. And it's not helping you get into this position at all. Because all you're doing is you're layering here, 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 and here. All at once. You're doing this, this, and this, and this, and this. Okay? It's creating a matrix, anomaly, another game system and travel, all through cluster. So when you open it up, starts to recognize more levels of view of its densities that you just let go. Okay? And you just unravel. It's like peeling an onion. It's light and it's dark web. You know exactly what you're doing is you do a cleanse. And when you're doing a cleanse and all lines of 4 angles, you start to see its beauty of its art, of its structure, of its design. Boom. So you sure you want to clutter this up, what you created in your minds? You don't want to do that because you can't travel of what you did through creating, of creation. You can't travel through this because you clutter it up. It's that simple. So don't. Let yourself go. Recognition of force recognition system is letting yourself in set lines where you can get in position location in your settings in all lines of communication setting of the structure that you created and designed. Okay, guys? That's all this is. All right? So I want you to truly understand how to work with the dimensional layers of you in space, how to flip the pages and set position. So all you're doing is you're doing this, expanding out. And then you're going to here, and then you're going to here, and then you're going to here, and then you're going to here. Okay? You're unraveling. You're revealing. Okay? You're evolving and expanding your simulation of the game that you are. You understand? Now, if you get into that position, it's much easier to understand this. Okay? Instead of getting all communications of clutter in set design. Because your vision is there. And if you cluster your vision, it locks it in. Okay? And it's coming from all dimensions of clock. It's 12 and 24 and 48 and 72 and 144 and 2000 setting, direct position, operation surface, high calculation system, combustion over line. How are you creating the beauty of art when you're hiding your vision? Your vision's ready to go, not through this. You have to unravel and release the density and set position. Okay, guys? All right, so you guys got a test on Friday. I just wanted to show you what you can do through a piece of paper. Okay? All right. Setting symbolism lines of track centers opens all sequence lines of correlation system. And this is all done through clocking. All right. So we're going to clock the grounds. Recourse centers lines of 4 lines of cycles and high separation of line position. It's getting more complicated now, right? But it's getting a lot more easier when you just let everything flow in your minds. Stop causing chaos. Stop causing confusion or separation or distraction. Because all you're doing, this is all you're doing, is setting up clusters. How many clusters do you want? You want to let them go. You want to let them go. You want to let them go. You understand? Hey, I'm free. Look at that. Wow. Too many minds, no minds. There you go. All on the floor, all disappeared. Not there anymore. They can't come back. Unless you want to bring them back. So don't. It's that simple. All right. Setting lines of communication setting is line setting and operates a system and location system. 1 split lines of anomaly and 2 arrows of indication. Changes track centers, indirect signals, modification lines of 2 point centers. Directing and redirecting cycle. Redirecting, redirecting, and directing. And set position to high centers of directing cycle. Setting line communication system all through track location setting to your mountains of traction. Set core lines of grounds, set core lines of center, and set position location of center, position location of setting. Process lines of direct signals, ground lines of surface, ground lines of position, ground lines of high centers, and position lines of platform. Cross line core centers, change communication system all through tractions. Directing core lines of highways, 4 lines of flux, 6 lines of 8, and 8 lines of set position of 4. Setting communication lines of ground lines of surface, platforms 1, platforms 2, platforms center, and track location. Setting communication high centers comes in all communication setting to 3 panels of operation or portals of communication. Directing signals, open lines of grounds, and set position location of travel. Directing core lines of setting, wormholes, black holes, center communication system all through travel. Directing signal lines of flux over ground lines, high set correlation setting, and crop circles, and set design. Directing core lines of setting, tubing, system, location, energize. Setting lines of communication setting, all in position of flux. Setting lines of communication setting, set operation system, all through travel. Directing signals on here and set position of ground lines, powers, and atmospheres and track locations. Energize. Oh, disappeared. Where did it go? Set position line high centers. I'll tell you exactly where it go. Back in center operation. You saw it disappear. You saw energize. So I did this. You saw me put it up here. But then it disappeared, right? But where is it always in position in setting? Always in center operation. It doesn't leave the tractions. Just expands in center operation. Oh, not ready to see it yet. It expands in center operation. Not ready to see it yet, right? So every time I'm doing this, you're not ready to see the center core system of you through frequencies until you get out of clutter. Now, when you get out of clutter, everything changes information lines of your earth and track location to its settings. Levitation, off the grounds of communication. Confirmation from the chair. Okay? Bring it back home in sequence, back in channel, back in operation. All right, so I'm just showing you, get into the story frames of everything you do in vision, cortex, location of theta. Setting lines of grounds, is it still there in traction? Yes. Setting lines of symbolism, it's still there in tractions. Levitation. Setting communication high center location system. All right, so let's get position lines of grounds. It's on the grounds of its earth. Now you're going to see it at the top. Now it's at the top, right? Now we're going to see it over here. You see it there? Yes, you do. Now you see it over here? Yes, you do, right? Now you see it over here, and yes, you do, right? Now, are they all going to stay there, or are they energized and disappear? Oh, one disappeared. All right, so let's do it again in set position locations. Is it there or is it gone? Nope, it's gone, all right? Setting communication setting. Is it there or is it gone? Oh, it's all there now, right? Now let's change the directions. When you change your intent, you change the travel. Is it there or is it not there? It's still there, right? Okay, is it there or is it not there? It's still there, right? Okay, so is it there or is it not there? It's all there. It's all there. When I bring it back home, is it still there or is there anything missing? Missing. Missing. It's gone. Where did it go? And that's for you to know. That is for you to know. In set position. See? It's not there anymore. It disappeared. Where did it go? See, this is what you guys have to truly stand. To understand a mind free is not through clutter. That doesn't exist. It's all levels in your mind, how you get in position, location, adaptation of surface. It all lines this communication system of travel. So let's do it again. Let's bring him in set minds and settings. Is he there? He's there now. Let's bring it back home. Is it there or is it gone? Is it all there? Now it's in balance because it didn't travel through clockings of emotion. Now if I change it here, is it still there in traction? Yes, it is. If I bring it back home, is it still there in tractions? Yes, it is. All right, it's all balanced now, right? Bringing it back home in all communication system is what? Coming into the fail-safe, right? That's what I'm saying. If you get very confused in motion and you don't know where you are, lines of communication, body lines of frame communication settings, you have to just know exactly what you're doing in lines of vision. Cortex lines, theta communication setting, one arrow in the communication setting, right? There's the arrow. Is the arrow still there? Yes, it is. Is the arrow still there? Oh, what is that? What is this? What's going on here? That's a 4. Setting sequence, energize the setting. Oh, they're there. We got time lines, time measure, time scale, time balance. Right? So it's having fun with me, right? It's trying to stand its coordinates or the location of travel. Bring it back home. Is it anything miss? Nope, it's back in balance, which means it never left its system, which means it never caused anything through clutter or any information location, the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres, and its highways and travel communication system. Balance communication lines, a box frame. What's missing in travel? What's missing in travel, guys? It's not together, is it? It's separated. Bring it back home. Set positions back in center, back in operation, right? Now, if I add anything in the center, it's still there in travel, right? Set location travels and 3 lines of cycle still there in set position, right? Bring it back home. Is it still there? See, it's always in balance, right? Change communication setting, always in balance. Change communication system, all in balance. Change communication system, all in balance, right? So you're not causing cluster, you're not causing combustion, you're not causing anything through interference or anything through Quebec. In line position location, you're just having fun in all lines of sequence, all lines of panel, all operation system existing all at once. All through travel, all through mechanisms. Bring it back home, anything offsetting? Nope, back in sequence, figure 8. So you guys have to truly understand how this modifies your system lines of travel and direct lines of communication system all through settings. But it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing where things can disappear around you if you don't understand what you're doing through levitation. How you can be any place in setting of seconds, minutes, and hours in timelines, time jump, or anything through vortex, right? Now you guys see Jumper with Hayden Christensen, right? Where you're here, here's the platform here. This is your central system of your Earth, right? So you're here, this is you, okay? And then you travel here, okay? So from here, you're there, right? Okay. Now this is time jump. So when you time jump, you have to understand the panels of communication system that crosses angles and setting. Bring it back home. Is it back in sequence? Back in traction? Yes, it is. Right? All right. Let's go and flip lines of communication system lines of travel. Okay, it's very confusing, right? Try to understand what's going on in travel communications. Let's flip it this way. Set location settings, right? You think this is upside down. This is right side up. So you have to understand the clocking system when it comes in all lines of course centers at 24, 48, 72, and 144 track position location and setting. Bring it back home, back in setting, back in operation system and travel. Boom. Still there, didn't disappear on you. All right, so platforms of setting, platforms of equal, platforms of directions, platforms of track locations. Okay, bring it back home, back in sequence, back in panel. Oh, but what's this? Got a dimensional door. Where'd that come from? Where did that dimensional door come from? Weird. And let's open up the window, setting lines of screen. Setting up the window, open lines of 3 lines of tractions. Setting communication setting. Here's the door handle, line position. There's the door. This is where it comes into all communications of confusion. If you understand how to go through the door system. Oh, look at that. No more door handle. It's gone. Oh, it's there and back again. So let's change the angles. There's a dimensional door and sequence lines of 3 lines of correlation system of panels. Indirect location, there's the door and set position of 3 track locations. Very complicated, right? Let's change the tracks of indirect signals and track locations. Okay, let's change it again. And set position, all right? Bring it back home. Where are we in track locations? Back in sequence, back in panel. So what you guys have to truly understand is your clocking system knows exactly where it is and where it's been, and always lines of communication with the body is always in its alignment, knows exactly setting lines of the mind, setting lines of the mind, setting lines of the mind in 3 track locations. This is you and your Earth. That's you and your Earth, right? So you have to know the directions you're going and set position. So the mind is already set up through sonar and echo and communication. Setting here, so you go over here. That's where you're supposed to be, right? And then over here, you got to go here. This is where you need to be, all right? So that's, if you flick the switch, are you in the same position? Yes, you are. Now, just because you see upside down doesn't mean it's right side up. So try to stand on a 4-line communication system. You have to travel on 4 lines at different angles of clocking. Bring it back home, back in equation, back in balance, back in sequence. It gets bigger, right? So this is the Earth line rotations, the crop circles and track communication setting the surface. Direct lines 1, 2, and 3 lines of tractions, high direction. Setting communication line 1, 2, 3 lines of track locations. Oh, it's not there, it disappeared. But I did put a line there. I did put a road graph. Where's the road graph that I put up? Gotta do it again. There it is now. Set position is in right sequence of panel. Yes, it is. There it is in track locations, right? Now, let's change the direct signals in a 45 communication. Okay, open on sequence lines to magnetic highways, information lines, and grounds of communications. All right, 3 communication lines of particles, accelerating lines of 1/6 line, and the bottom line is sequence, and line position of particle accelerator, 24, 48, 72, 144, platform communications, right? Torical field. Then the torical field does this in set position. Then the torical field does this in set position. Then the torical field does this in set position. It has to go all the way around in sequence. Same lines of triangulation as the flux over screen adaptation lines across lines. Track communication lines of center, in rotation surface, and track location system. Sets communication lines of grounds over sequence, over panel, over operation system location existing all at once, and set locations and lines of time measure, time scale, time balance, time communication system, all 3 tracks and all division over all locations. Sending line communication setting to 3 lines of circles and track locations. Operation, bring it back home, back in sequence, back in balance, back in setting. Okay? Spinning around the system. See? Did you guys see that? It's spinning around the particle now. So I've got 3 track locations, 1 provisional lines of clocking, 1 provisional lines of clocking, and 1 provisional lines of clocking in 3 different directions. Sending communication lines of 24, sending communication lines of 48, sending communication lines of 144 track locations. Oh, it's not there. Gotta do it again. Oh, doesn't want to go there. Let's do it again. There it is. All right. So 3 clocking system, 24, 48, 72. So I'm going here, time jumping, going here, time locking, going here, time scoring in communications. Getting in that position lines, flick the switch, lines of ground, lines of surface, and track locations. So understanding tractions, all through signal, all through balance, all communications. Right? So it's constantly understanding a wind path, how you come into information locations to earth and track communications. All right? Setting lines of grounds and setting lines of surface, location, levitation. So setting communication clocking here, clocking here, clocking here. All lines, all time lines at once. All time communication setting the surface and tractions, right? Setting communication lines of high set position location to a system, all through track locations. Bring it back home in equations, back in sequence, back in panel. All right? So your center leaves the system locations and settings. So once you understand, when I say center leaves, that doesn't mean it's leaving. See, that's what you guys got to get out of this time. When I enter, I'm exiting. When you're exiting, I'm entering. You understand that. Okay, that's leaving, right? But I see it as levels, existing, awareness, okay, viewing the intelligence of networks of grounds. So that's not leaving. Sorry. This is all lines of different lines of schematics that create lines of 3 lines of anomalies in position, location, traction, and a 4-line split lines of communication system, all through road graph screen adaptations across and line communication setting, all through travel and track location. Ooh-ah. So you have to come into your location grids. See, location grid. Flux over structure over 1, there's a panel communication lines of structure line division. Cross calculation lines of 3 tractions and direct lines of 3 lines of 4 lines of communication setting and travel. Dragging cross line course centers, line position location and setting the metric line communication lines of skynets of travel. Over cross location and screen lines of adaptation of service, bring it back home in sequence, back in panel, back in operation, back in sequence. Into your pyramid and track location. There's your pyramid. Hoo-ah. So it doesn't matter how you look at things, guys. Very powerful sky grid, skyline, see the pyramid here. Set position, there's your pyramid here, there are locations, there's your DNA structures, there's the location, Skynet lines, there's the XC1000 traveling up. There's a travel line position of XC1000 traveling down in set position. So all you have to do is understand home. In that position, basically, you don't change anything to form. Setting lines of communication setting is all through indication system. Tracking line signal locations, the clocking setting at 24, 48, and 72. All right? Okay, so we had a 24 center, okay, and a 48 on standby. All right? Then we take lines of 48, and set change position, and 24 in set position. This is direct and redirect reverse. All right, so now position 24 is 24 above and position of all 48 is 48 in center, right? Different clocking, different time, different measure, different scale. Particle setting around the system. Clocking system, your crop circles. Going round and 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 round in the same directions. Then you come into all of your position locations of your vision, of your cortex, in timeline and sequence in your reality and set position. Okay? Now, once you get into that, you're channeling here. This is you. That's you. Right there, right? All right, so you decide to go through the 24, setting position of 48 attractions, setting lines of 40 over 24 over setting. Sets communication center, center operates the system location, your planets. Planets. Setting core lines attractions, setting lines of Saturn and direct signal. There's Saturn. Process line, high direct locations, there's Pluto. Pluto lines of 2 indication lines, 2 track locations, 3 lines of sighting in the Saturn, line position all open cycles. Mercury and line communication setting at Jupiter and track locations. Setting direct signals, process communication system, all through setting, all through operation. Hooah. Platforms A, platforms B. Platform C, platforms D. So all you're creating is holographic structures of cross-line signals that modify the system, your Skynets, your Skybirds, and your position, location, setting, bolding communication system, all your pyramids and tractions. Setting lines of flux over cross locations, setting 3 forks. 3 forks line provision, 3 lines of cycles, 4 lines of track centers, and down lines of set position. Right? Which is your constellations of pi. Okay? Setting lines of communication system, force calculation setting. Clocking lines, green lines adaptation setting, continuous force, and the same clocking system as its reality and track location. Oh, you're not ready to see it. Got to bring it back home. Set position lines of travel. Then you're going to set position of sequence because the actual digital pad of its consciousness is saying what I need to do is I need to reposition its settings in back contractions, right? Because it doesn't like it through track locations. So I got to set it to the center, set it 3 track locations to 2 XE1000 in provision lines and bring you in the intelligence of informations. There's the intelligence. Okay, setting lines of ground, symbolism lines of 1 tractions and 1 direct signals, modify the system location of travel. Setting core lines of tractions, change all communication setting and direction. Constellation hangars and docking systems and 3 lines of settings and travel. Directing lines of ground, center communication setting, high lines of surface and travel. Bring it back home. Are we in sequence? Are we in panel? Yes, we are in travel. All right, and that's all through clocking. All through your sky grid line communication just by leaving. So when somebody says you're leaving, I'm actually entering because I don't see myself as leaving because I'm changing the coding. So you guys are so programmed, you have to understand that if you're entering, you're not entering, you're leaving. You have to come into your own formation system, ground sense, entering, right? Existing networks, travels, E-line screen, E-lines factors, E-line rotation. Okay? Setting core lines, high interference in position locations into reminding myself in 2 lines and 3 line rotation surface. Setting ground lines intelligence into networks into higher core lines and gravity shift lines of communications. So you tell me how's that entering? It isn't, is it? Because I changed the codings in modification grounds and set position location to the system. Right? All through traction, all through setting, all through communications. Right? When you bring it back home, you see in the requisite time sequence information lines of grounds, back in lines of correlation, setting, and entering. So it's all lines of communication lines of ground, service lines, distribution travel, directing lines, modification lines of high position. Communication center location setting, look what we got in communication. Your pyramid attraction. There's your flywheel. These are your perimeters. What you do in line position. Change communication lines of ground, lines of surface set position locations. Right? So that's what you guys have, not just get into your own codings, but all levels in high position location to expand your system all through Earth, all through clocking and setting. You're here, 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 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right. So now you could be in line screen adaptation settings when you come into that. So we got 24,000 seconds, 24,000 minutes, and 24,000 hours. Okay, that's space. All right. This is space. This is cluster. This is communication setting. Now, when I say cluster, that's not cluster, is it? Does that look like cluster? No. Cluster is the correlations, the 2 panels. The L line is levels of 2 line rotation. Setting correct location, setting the lines of unification lines of two lines of signals. Setting lines of systematic lines crossing line communication lines of two panels. Setting course centers into interpretation of three-track locations, setting at three lines course centers and line direct locations, setting existing lines into remindering set lines of communications. Ooh-ah. So you tell me, has this any formations that are cluttered? I changed the coding, guys. You see the interpretation vessel. You see the window frames and tractions. You see the crop circles of your Earth in set position. Okay? What clusters you is what's given to you. That creates cluster. Get in your own coding and break things down. Break it down, break it down, break it down, break it down. That's all you got to do. When you break it down, then you can see it in all levels of track locations. Different formula, different equation. Different formula, different equation. Okay, there's a pyramid, two lines of cycles. Point center, entry cycle. High course centers, patterns, programs, direct signals of lights. There's your Wi-Fi. There's your modem. There's your satellites. There's your towers. And there's your pyramids and track locations. And there's your Earth in set position. There's your Earth. Booyah. So, you don't see anything clustered, do you, when you see this through a drawing? Okay? I'm just trying to get you guys into realizing what you guys do in set positions. You cause that clutter because you don't information your system through your own binaries. You don't change that in track communications. Do it. Do it. All right, so we got 4 signals and 4 grounds. Sir, that doesn't look like 4 signals and 4 grounds. Yes, it is. All right? I'm not saying it's a traffic. I'm not saying it's a rotation. There's nothing to track communication. I'm telling you exactly what it is. But every time I'm changing, it's changing its division. It's changing its clockings. It changed its 24, 48, and 72, 144. So what you guys have to understand, everything at 24 sets lines of 48. 48 sets lines of 72 in center. All right, so 72 sets position of 1 and position of 4 and 4 and 3 track locations of highways. Separating lines of 1 over 2 over lines over 4 over 6 over 7 in traction. Directing lines of indication lines of 4 settings, process line and direct signals modification. Setting communication system all through pyramid and track location. Okay? That's set course centers, line direct signals. I'm sure you understand how to use the 2448. I want you guys finally get into your levels of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols and how to go through lines of anything in set position location in your system. So off the travel. Okay, so we got line position locations and setting that process lines and position locations of 1. 1 over 2, 2 over 6, and 6 over 1. Okay? Change in sequence on the 4 lines of communication system. All through structure, all through primer. Okay? All right, so we cross the lines, circulation, rotation lines of the Earth, and 2 lines of measure and track location. All right? And then we center up. Okay, and magnetic lines and position of cloud lines and set position lines of travel. Then we center down and we energize the system location of setting. Process communication lines of 4 lines of tubing and 4 lines of communication setting. You guessed it again, your pyramid and track location of center operation. All right, set communication setting to travels, indirect lines of modification grounds. Set communication high center location setting of service lines, communication lines of grounds. Through pi, set lines of 2, position lines of 4, set lines of 8, in position locations and setting into 3000 air, and center correlations of center relation to your Earth that sets its communication system all through surface interactions. Your Earth in the center. Your Earth in the center. And your Earth in the center of operation, all through triangulation. So that's what you guys are doing. You're creating a triangulation of 3, 6, 9, and 12, and 24, 48, 72, 144. Again, that position location, you're creating the infrastructure setting, the location setting, the fabric of the space. You're creating the Earth inside a triangulation. Triangulation comes into a triangulation box. This is a TV frame, pixelation frame, holographic frame. This is your theta. This is your imaginations of flux. There's the window. Now when you get into the window, you travel the 3 lines of angles in set position of settings. 4 panels in grounds, 4 panels in space. All right. Setting communication, high center location of travel and set position. Bring it back home to the equation. Set calculations, high center location of its window and its frame. Booyah. All right. So that's what you guys are doing now, because you guys are still in the brain convergence location. So triangulation, earth inside. Okay. Then you get into the earth of the box. Yeah, that's right. You got to create the triangulation of female and the male polarity. Triangulation, box. Then your system lines core centers into your earth, okay, into your ether, into your ferments and your cores. Setting communication lines of ground lines of surface and track location system all through travel. Open up portals, sequence lines of 2 lines of 3 track locations. Open up window frame and position lines of high centers. Change flux over screen, adaptation lines of setting. Process lines of center, another earth in the center position. Then you set in lines of communication, another earth in lines of set position of case with settings. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's your 5th elements, guys. There's the 5th elements of your space and time through measure, all through infrastructure and settings, right? So let's get into 4 symbolism lines of attractions and direct signals. Modification lines of 1, modification lines of 2, modification lines of 3, modification lines of 4, and modification lines of 5. Okay? All right, X2001, X2002, X2003, X2004, and X2005. Change graph, communication setting, all through process communications. Okay, and then we go into the ground lines of Earth, center communication. Then we go through alpha channels, 1 flux over 2 lines, 3 lines signals, 4 lines communication setting, and 5 track communications. Directing in the opposite signals in lines of X2000, platforms and communication lines of docking, in a waving screen ductation of surface. Setting cross line angles, sets communication system, all through dimensional doors. There's the doors. All right, so you go through door lines of 1, door lines of 2, door lines of 3, door lines of 4, and door lines of 5, and track communications. Setting calculation screen lines, 4 lines of flux and a 4-line communication. Setting direct signals into door handles and into center communication. There's all the dimensional doors. This is where it gets in all levels of confusion through all levels of Dr. Strange and travel communication. Hooah! Lockers. Okay, in a school. Symbolism lines of track centers, 3 lines of flux over a line, directing signals and ground lines of surface and track locations. Hooah! Okay? Going through 5-dimensional door lines. Bring it back home. Where are we in equation and settings of travels? Back in sequence, back in panel. Okay, then we come into the position location system all through tractions. What do we have in settings? Our road, our graph, and our screens. Okay, electrical fencing. Fencing 1, fencing 2, fencing 3, fencing 4, and set position of electrical line grids. Setting core lines and core centers with 4 lines of flux, 3 lines of travel, and direct signals and modification grounds. Setting core lines of 3 lines and high direct signals into 1, 2, 3 lines of position location of pillars. Directing signals, ground lines of service, bringing communication setting, all through set correlation setting of dimensional doors. Setting communication high lines, high core lines, and high set position location of your system, all through travel. Okay. Yeah. Bring it back home, back in equation, back in panel, back in operation, surface, and traction. Dimensional doors. Woo! Dr. Strange. All right. But this is what you guys have to come into. 5 earth lines. All right. So that sets lines, course, centers, lines, high set, position, location, travel. Set lines of 1, set lines of 2, set lines of 3, set lines of 4, set lines of 5. So what you're creating is you got 5 line signals, but now you have to come into a flux capacitor. Sets lines of 5 over 7 in position location setting. That puts all levels of 5 in track locations. That puts lines of 12 outline communication setting. 24 symbolism lines of track location of center operation. Setting core lines into panels. Split lines of anomaly in one position 1, 2, 3, and 4 set locations. Setting lines of communication lines of 1, 2, and 3 set locations. Sets communication lines of triangulation flux, triangulation lines, and triangulation line division location to a system. Setting core lines of 1 position and set position of 2 track lines and 3 line communication of 4 line communication setting the travel. 3 over 4, right? So you got 5 earths and lines of grounds, 5 earths, lines of powers, 5 earths and lines of highest location atmospheres, 5 earths and lines high position location with setting, all through your highways, in line condition setting your planets, in line communication setting the bridging and set position. Setting core lines of channels, flux over screen, and direct signals and ground lines of surface. Setting communication high lines of channels in line screen adaptations, high process, and communication setting the surface. Intelligence. See the eyes? Right? All right. So we've got a pi generation lines. We change the course lines of time and sequence lines of panel. 4 lines of communication system, all through Earth, all through panels, all through magnetic highways and travel communication system. Oh, you weren't allowed to see that. Frequencies are too high. Are we in traction? Yes, we are. All right, so setting lines of course centers, line direct signals in panels of communication setting, 4 lines of set position lines of travel. Set calculation setting to, you guessed it, your pyramid of traction. This is you going in your position, crossing lines in position at all settings. This is you, this is you, this is you, this is you, this is you. All right. Setting course centers, line direct signals, center course system 2080. Center communication high center interference, and you coming in line position location of a system all through travel. Right. Center core lines, set communication system all through service, all position realities. Line direct signals, your dualities, but it's all communication lines of grounds, all lines of service, all position locations, living all lines of existing, all lines of all communication, all panels, all communication, all clocking, in all communication system, all through travel, all direct signals and ground lines of communication. Ooh-ah. Okay? Come into the center on both lines of communications, guys. And set position 12 foundations. On both sides of functions, right? Very powerful, isn't it? When you really understand what's going on in set location and clockings, all through traction, all through division. Ooh-ah. All right, is everybody standing point lines of graphs and high lines of signals, how you come into more levels of your story of this, story of that on a 4-line signal, right? So constantly understanding clocking settings, right? Clocking lines of 1, clocking lines of 2, clocking lines of 3000. 1, 2, 3000. All right, clocking 1, clocking 3000. So that's 3000 measured in 3 cycles and 3 lines of communication. 1 center operation, 1 Fibonacci in going in the same direct signal, and position of 2 track lines in flux over lines of 3 line rotation. So communication lines of grounds and set position lines of travel. Process lines of signal, process lines of kaleidoscope, and communication setting and measure. Scales communication lines, 3 lines of tractions, all communication lines of Pluto. Setting ground lines of service, XT1000 and 5 communications. Directing core lines over line rotation, surface, and travel, and direct signal. Ground lines communication setting, all through set correlation system, all through calculations. Bring it back home in equations, back in sequence, back in panel. Oh, look what we got. We got this now, back in setting. Change position lines of tractions. Sometimes it does that. Vortex itself, back in sequence. There it is in travel. Okay? So, the more you let go, the more you see. The more you see, the more you stand through dimensional doors. And when you go through the doors, you go through 1 lines, you go through 2 lines, you go through 3, you go 4, and 5. You travel through all doors, right? Or you just travel through 1 door. Now, when you travel through 1 door, this is what you see. So when you're looking at a door, this is what you're seeing, right? All through interdimensional space. All right, so this is how you see a door in a 3 dimension. This is how you see a door in a 4th dimension. This is how you see a door in 5th dimension. This is how you see a door in 6th dimension. This is how you see a door in 7th dimension. This is how you see a door in 8th dimension. Okay, so you have to truly understand how this all works. All through flux, all through communication setting, all through line position location of Doctor Strange. Dimensional doors. Or a road graph screen. Okay? Or an operation system, all through triangulation system and settings. Oh, look at that. It took out the portal. Got to bring it back in sequence. Setting communication setting, high setting. Process lines of 1, process lines of 2, process lines of 3, clocking lines of 4, clocking lines of 12, clocking lines of 24, clocking lines of high center interference, clocking lines of communication to the system, all through travel. Okay? Setting communication lines of ground lines of surface of travel. So it gets more complicated when you really get into the dimensional doors of volume. So it goes to one door, right? It goes to all doors all at once. So it doesn't need to go through door, because it already knows what the door is through its mind, through its imagination, through its core, right? So it's already gone through pi from direct and redirect setting. And then once you understand that, then you come into the center operation. Seeing this in spectrum, okay, overlapping. This is overlapping, okay? This is center lapping, okay, in set position. That's the difference between this and this. Overlapping, center lapping. So we got two main frames, 4 track locations. Okay, we got 2 overlapping screens and 1 line and 2 lines of traction. Direct lines of flux over screen over 2 and 4 lines of clocking. All right, different doors, just different direction, different angles. Process here, process here, process here. Process here, travel. Process here, travel. And process here, travel. So there you go. There's your satellite. You see your satellite? There it is. Boom. So you got a door here in setting, right? And you got a window frame in setting. Okay. And you have a platform in setting. Okay. Then you got an open window in setting. And then you got 2 open windows in setting. And then you got position location of travels in setting, teleportation. Boom. Platforms of communications. Change direct signals. What do we have in track locations? Ooh-ah. What do we have in track locations in different formulas, equations, and lines of travel, guys? Look at that. Look at the travel in that. All right. Ground lines of 1 and ground lines of 2 in travel. Okay, you see that, right? There's Asgard. Boom. There's 2x/1000s flying in set position. There's the road graph right there. See? There's the road, there's the graph. Okay, this is Asgard right here in travel. Boom. Set a walkway sequence, there's the walkway. Setting lines of communication, setting all through travel. Directing signals into ground lines of surface and set position locations. Hoo-ah. Walkway to Asgard. Woo-wee! All right. So getting in that position locations, understand how to use your 24, your 48, your 72, and your 144, you automatically come into what? What do you come into positions of? Setting lines of attractions, setting communication settings of 1. So 1 times 1, okay? That's a times, but it looks like a plus. I gotcha, see? The 4 panels, okay? Setting lines of 3 track locations. There's the pyramid, right? All right, so setting signals, 2 lines of communication of 4 settings of signals. Setting communication lines of ground lines of surface and position your road. Oh, look, the lines are disappearing. It's traveling too fast. Then you set up the grids. You set up the grids. You set up the grids, and you set up the grids. Ooh-ah. Ooh, la, 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 la. All right, here's Asgard. Oh, here's Asgard. There you go. All right, there's the structure, there's the building, and set position locations. Unison's here and setting. Say hi. There's Unison. Hey. So the more you understand the structure, the more you understand the design. Right? So you're in platform here, you're in platform here, your platform here, and setting on the board, on the game of the board. Right? And all you got to do is follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. That's all you do is follow the yellow brick road, right? Now, when you follow the yellow brick road, this is when you come into positions of interactions. Oh, look at that. Whoa, what's going on now? Looks like a ceiling to me. All right, setting communication lines as center and travel communications. All right, setting lines of travel communications, energetic dome lines of course centers. Setting communication high centers of flux over screen adaptation lines of surface interaction. Okay, back in sequence, back in panel, back in operation system, back in home, in track locations. Oh, look at where it took me. Oh no. It does that by its own. Okay, so this is what it is. In set position, do location, do a setting. You're all on the board trying to get home. So it's kind of like, nope, I gotta go back. I gotta go over here. No, I don't want to go there. Right? So every time you get an emotion, you're setting yourself back in the game. But when you bring yourself forward, escort, ding, 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 home. Okay? So you're standing 24 clockings. Okay? 24 clockings of grounds, 24 clockings of center, 24 clockings of atmospheres, 24 clockings of highways, and 24 clocking system to Asgard and setting. And here's the planets above, and all communication system, all through travel and through mechanism. Hoo-ah! There's the bridge that you go in position of, the golden arches, the golden realms, the golden castle. Then you come into position locations to its gates. Gates are opening. Gates are opening. There's the gate opening set position. Gates opening up. And here it is in track locations. There it is. Home. Okay? And that's all this is. Ooh-ah. Okay? Now, once you get in your grids, you come in position location, you're what? Your sky grids, your sky panels, your sky net. Okay? So it's important you understand how to get in position lines of high centers going through dimensional doors. Okay, and understand the line signals, location setting. When you come all line communications back at home. Okay? And you do it through clocking. All right? But I'm just showing you how powerful it is once you understand how to go through window frames, box frames, triangulation frames, all through setting, all through the earth, the power, and the atmosphere. Right? And once you understand how to go through the 5 line signals into location setting, you come and understand location how to go through your clockings. Your clockings and the grounds, powers, and the atmospheres. 2 panels of flux, 1 center lines of communication lines of earth, channel up into magnetic highways. Setting core lines of pi, setting core lines of attraction, setting lines of communication setting, all through flux communications. Change the direct signals and ground lines of surface in position location to your pyramid interaction. Wow. Okay. All right, that was fun. All right, unison set up lines of track centers, line direct signals of Asgard. Setting communication on high centers of flux over screen. Directing lines of indication setting. Classification A in line screen adaptation system, right? See you guys in 5.